Hey book besties, I'm April, and welcome to No Shelf Control, the podcast for readers who choose books based on vibes, skip sleep for just one more chapter, and never quite stick to the TBR. If you're into twisty thrillers, nostalgic favorites, emotional roller coasters, and a little bookish chaos, you'll feel right at home here. Each week, I'll be diving into the reads we love, the ones that left us shook, and everything in between. So grab your coffee, your Kindle, and come hang with me. Hey book besties, welcome back to No Shelf Control. I'm your host, April, and today we're going to talk about something that everyone can most likely relate to, book slumps. You might be there right now. You may have just been there. Book slumps are awful, but they happen. And we need to figure out ways to get out of them and how to avoid them. Because who wants to deal with a book slump? Not me. Even I fall into book slumps sometimes, and I'm going to talk about them. But before we get into that, I just want to go through a couple of little updates. So, as I've spoken about before on the podcast, we are starting a No Shelf Control podcast book club. I'm so excited. It's launched on Fable now. So if you haven't signed up yet, I encourage you to go sign up if you'd like to start reading with us on September 1st, which is already next week. I can't believe it. So, how to sign up? The link is in our bio, the link is in the show note, or you can go on Fable and search No Shelf Control and you'll find our book club there. It's a public book club, it's free to join, it's free to participate. So, please go ahead and sign up. More information to come on that later. Remember, our first pick is The Love of My Afterlife. I'm so excited to read this book. It's a contemporary romance slash fantasy. So I hope you decide to read along with me. We start reading next week, and at the end of September is when I'm going to send out the Zoom link for all members of the book club so we can get together and discuss. I can't wait. I'm so excited. But more information on that later. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. What does it even mean to be in a reading slump? I'll be honest, before I got into reading as a hobby, I had no idea what anybody meant when they said reading slump. And then I really got familiar with it when I had my very first slump. Again, they're horrible. So this could look different depending on what kind of a reader you are. You could be just not willing to pick anything up. You're starting books and not finishing any of them, which is awful. We all know how much I hate to DNF a book, but again, I'm a very big believer in DNFing as self-care. But if I'm DNFing every single book that I pick up, that's not a problem with those books. There's a problem with me. And maybe something is wrong, like nothing feels right. You can't figure out what to read. I know as a mood reader, I often go through these times where I look at my bookshelf and get overwhelmed and say, well, I don't know which one I want to read. And then it takes me days to even figure out which one I'm going to pick up. That might not be so much of a reading slump, but it's definitely a delay, and it could lead to a reading slump if I don't take advantage of the moment and pick a book. That's not really a reading slump, but it certainly could lean to one. So we want to make sure that I don't end up in one. There's always all that guilt as well. Guilt from yourself. Like I said, when I was trying to pick a book and it took me a few days, of course, every day I'm going, why am I not just picking up a book? Again, that's part of my self-care. So you'll hear me say that 5 million times every single time on this podcast, but it's true. And I'll feel guilty if I don't pick something up and I just waste my time doom scrolling on TikTok, which we all know is super easy and very frustrating. Then I have my moments, and I know you've probably been there too. Like, am I just not a reader anymore? Is this not a hobby I want anymore? Am I trying to find something else to do with my time? Now, let's not be dramatic here. That is not the case with me. But often my little intrusive thoughts during a book slump, they will absolutely have me believing, yeah, no, you don't want to read anymore. No, you're not a reader. Now you got to find a new hobby. No, everything's fine. You just need to understand that slumps don't equal failure. You're still a reader. It's just a time when your brain is probably overwhelmed, overworked, you're overstimulated, you haven't had any time to just decompress. That's usually what it is for me. And there are other factors that could tie into that. It might not just be my mood. It might be that I read something recently and it just triggered a slump. There's all kinds of triggers out there. So we're actually going to get into that in a moment and talk about what the common triggers are of reading slumps. Like I said a few minutes ago, life stress, overwhelm. We talked about the tough and busy seasons last week, the busy weeks, mom life, work, changes in your lifestyle, things like that. Those can all trigger a huge book slump for people. I know for me, certain things like that, you get out of your routine and it just turns everything upside down. That's all it takes. Something as fragile as my time to myself will just get turned upside down. Sounds right, doesn't it? Another trigger, which this has happened to me so many times, finishing a really good book. So I'm in a book hangover. That's what I like to call it. You finish a book, you know that moment when you shut it and it feels like the world goes silent and you say, "Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever read a better book," or "Wow, that was one of my favorite books of all time." And then everything just gets silent and then I think to myself, "Well, what am I going to read now?" Because now it's been ruined. The bar is set so high. And I get into this mode of, well, no matter what I pick, it's not going to measure up to that, and I'm trying as hard as I can to figure out which book is going to match or exceed what I just read. And that alone is just me putting so much pressure on something that should just be fun. And I get it. It's just part of what's happening in that moment. I just can't believe what I just read and it was that amazing that I'm just having a hard time understanding where to even go next. All you need to do is just kind of sit back for a little while. Maybe don't pick up a book that day. Wait another day before you pick a book up. For me, that's usually what I try to do because if I try to jump into another book right away, I'm still thinking about that other one. I still have that on the brain, so I can't even focus on this new book. You don't want to do that because then that could lead to you DNFing the book you're currently reading because you can't let go of the previous book. And then it turns into you going into a book slump because you think, well, now I can't enjoy this book because I just had such a great time reading this one. I can't stop thinking about it. You just need to allow yourself some time to soak up what you just read. Maybe go talk about it with some of your friends. Tell people about it. Write a review about it. Do something to talk about that book because obviously it made such an impact. That's how you can avoid a book hangover. Another trigger, forcing yourself to read out of obligation. I'm sure this kind of triggers maybe some elementary, middle, high school times when you were told you have to read your summer reading, you have to read these 10 books, and it's an obligation that you cannot quit. You must do it, even if those books have absolutely no interest to you. What makes you want to read? Somebody telling you to read or you wanting to read? Now, let's simplify that a little bit, please. So, that could coincide now with book clubs, if you're an ARC reader, if you're buddy reading with people. It all depends. Now, if you're in a book club, I would hope that you are enjoying it as much as possible and it is not feeling like an obligation. If you're in a book club right now and it feels like an obligation, you should probably take a step back. Maybe not quit the book club, but maybe take a month or two off, however often you meet. So maybe if you meet once a month and you read a book a month, maybe you need to take a month or two off. You don't want to feel like it's an obligation. That's supposed to be fun. You did that for fun, not because you were supposed to. Same thing with ARCs. I know a lot of people are so excited when they get picked as an ARC reader, and it is amazing. And I've had authors reach out to me and offer me the chance to read their books, and I have done that for a couple of them. But a few others at the time that they reached out, it just was not a good time for me. And it was disappointing because, of course, I want to support all of my small indie authors, and I do it in different ways, but I could not be their ARC reader for that one. Or I said, I would love to read this. I just can't read this right now. And I put it on the calendar for maybe next month. Because if I don't have the right headspace, the right time available, I'm not going to rush through and push myself to do something that I don't have the time for or I don't want to do at that moment. All ties into this really come from my mood reader struggles. If you're a mood reader like me, I know you've been there. Again, I mentioned this in the beginning. I just touched on it. If I have read a book and now I need to figure out what I'm reading next, I'm not necessarily going to read whatever I said I was going to read next. My TBR is non existent. It's really just a list of hopefuls. And these are all books I eventually want to read at some point in my life. It doesn't mean I want to read it next. It doesn't matter if I bought a book last week. I might not read it till next year. Who knows? I have to be in the mood for it. So if I finish a book and I need to pick up the next one, sometimes I don't know what I'm in the mood for. If I've read 4 thrillers in a row, most likely I'm going to be in the mood for something else. But maybe I haven't. Maybe I read a thriller, then a romance, then a fantasy, then a memoir. And now I'm like, well, now I don't know what I want. And I look at the stack of books that I have and I can't figure it out. And I try and look at my TBR list and try and borrow something from the library. Still can't figure it out. If nothing is fitting my current mood, my current vibe, then maybe that's my sign to just say, okay, let's just take a day or two. I know it sounds like it shouldn't be that serious, and it really is. Let's be real, it is not that serious. It is not that serious. But I really want to avoid a book slump. So rather than get frustrated, overwhelmed, pick something just because I feel like I have to, now I'm talking about forcing myself to do something that I don't want to do or I don't understand what I want to read. That's just causing unnecessary problems that I don't need, that no one needs. Again, reading is fun, reading is a hobby, reading is my self care. So who forces themselves to do things they don't want to do and call it self care? Let's think about that. So, those are really all the triggers that I have seen personally in my reading journey. And I've come up with ways to snap out of it. Because again, we know what the triggers are. We can't avoid them sometimes. Just because I know what's going to trigger me doesn't mean I'm going to say, "Oh, well, I'll never do that again." That's that is not reality. Let's be for real. Now, something that I don't necessarily do, but when I asked other friends of mine who read what they do to get out of a book slump, they said comfort rereads. So maybe every fall you read Harry Potter. That's coming up soon. Or maybe you have a favorite author that no matter what happens, if you feel yourself going into a book slump, you read that person's books and right away you feel much better. For me, I don't do rereads, but I will read one specific author, any of her books that I haven't read yet to get me out of a book slump. And that is Frida McFadden. We've already talked about this on a different episode, but I stand by that. So for comfort rereads, it could be your favorite book of all time. It could be a book that you never got over. It could be a book that you wish you could read for the first time every single time. It could be anything. Comfort is the key word there. And if that's your palate cleanser, that's your book that's going to get you out of or stop you from getting into a book slump, then that's a book you always want to have on hand, or a stack of them, if you will. I don't recommend rereading the same book over and over and over. If you want to, I encourage it, but only if you want to. But maybe you have a stack of books that during those times where you're really not sure what to read, maybe you pick one of those up. Maybe you're a person who reads a lot of fiction, and during those times of a book slump, you really like to pick up certain memoirs or other nonfictions. The other route that you can take, which I've taken before, are short books or short stories, if you will, novellas. They're out there. They are considered my quick win method. And what I mean by a quick win method is this book is going to be a quick read. It's going to get me out of my book slump. Maybe I just need a change of pace. Maybe I just need a change of genre. And I don't want to go and pick up another 400, 500 page book. I want something quick. That is when those short stories really come into play. And you can get them anywhere. There's all kinds of short stories out there, all different genres. So take a look around, go to your local library, go to your local bookstores, support your local indie authors. A lot of them have short stories to begin with, and they're out there. So I really encourage it. Another way you could do it is picking a different format, which we kind of touched on last week when we talked about the busy seasons, maybe switching it up. Same thing goes for a book slump. Maybe if you have been reading physical book after physical book after physical book, and you're looking at your shelves and you're really not feeling anything, grab your Kindle. Maybe try reading on your Kindle. Download an audiobook. Go to the library, download an audiobook. Start a graphic novel. Try something different. Try a different method. Maybe keep reading the same types of books, same genres of books that you always enjoy, but try them in a different format. Sometimes that's all it takes, just a change of scenery. Now, if you really can't snap out of it, and the only other way you can handle it is by shutting the book that you're trying to read and just can't. You're in a book slump, you can't pick something up, and you're trying and you're reading and you're not gathering anything, you're not enjoying it. No shame in DNFing a book. And it doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be forever. You can DNF that book today, put it back on your bookshelf, pick it up in a week, a month, a year, doesn't matter. If it's not working for you at that moment, let's normalize quitting. I know that word sucks. People hate the word quitting. It sounds terrible, but to be completely honest, if I quit reading a specific book because it's making me go crazy or I'm not enjoying it, what's worse? I don't think quitting is any worse than that. And sometimes it really helps by trying different books. We talked about different methods, but let's talk about different books. For a while, I was always sticking to the same genre. I was a big only thriller person. Thriller, mystery, suspense, not really horror or like gory stories. I'm not really into that, but like the thriller suspense of it all, I love those books. But a girl can only read so many before she gets not bored, but just burnt out. You thrillers are really just roller coasters with lots of twists and turns, lots of whiplash, and the ending has you feeling so much adrenaline. That's a lot if that's the only genre that you read. So, to get out of that, I started to venture into different genres. And one way I did that was starting a book club. And every single month, we have a different genre that we read. Let's say, for example, this month is a romance pick. Every single one of our book club members puts in a pick, and we pick it out of a bowl, and we decide which one we're going to read. And then next month might be historical fiction. And after that, it might be a memoir. And then it might be a holiday romance. Every single month is different. We have a plan in place so we know what's happening when, but we don't know what exactly we're going to be reading for a book. We just know the genre ahead of time. So when I was reading thriller after thriller, and I was feeling like I didn't want to read anything at that time because, again, that's the only thing that I had been reading. I didn't want to pick up another book. So when I started my book club and I said, okay, well, we picked this book this month and it's a spicy romance. Well, never done that before. I'm going to read it. That can get me out of the book slump. Now, could I start a genre that I don't really vibe with? Yeah, obviously. But how am I going to know unless I try, right? And if you aren't in a book club, again, we're launching our very first book club. We're starting on September 1st, which is next week. So keep your eyes peeled for all the details. Sign up for our book club on Fable and also sign up for our Substack newsletter that goes out every single week. And you'll get all kinds of information in there about the book club, the upcoming episodes, and so much more. Or start your own book club. Now, I'm not going to get into that today because that could take an entire episode to talk about how to start a book club. But one of the future episodes, I will be talking about how I started my book club that has been going strong for almost 3.5 years. Actually, 3.5 years next month. That's really exciting. And I'll give all my tips on how that has become such a success so that you can start your own book club. Okay. So at the end of this episode now, I really want to talk about what some of the listeners have said. So I posted on social media last week asking what people do to get out of book slumps or avoid them. And so I'm just going to read a couple right here. Some people did say some of the things that I had already talked about: rereading old favorites, leaning into short books, join a buddy read, switching the formats of how I read. Again, these are all very common, but there are some in here that I didn't even think of. And I think I would adopt these methods if I ever get into another book slump, which we know will happen at some point. It's just unavoidable. I let myself rest. Now, I kind of touched on that a little bit, but this listener said that sometimes the cure is just not to force it. I feel like I need to take a few days off, and usually the spark just comes back naturally. That right there is such a smart move. You have this like need in the back of your head that I need to pick up a book. I need to read. I need to do something. Maybe you're counting the days that you read and you're on like a 65-day reading streak. I'm sorry, but that doesn't matter. Your reading streak, yes, obviously that's a huge streak, 65 days, but it's okay if you have to start over. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let your reading streak make you continue reading when you need a break. Listen to yourself. So that was from Kelsey. Thank you, Kelsey. Amanda said, I pick something super hyped. If everyone is talking about it on Book Talk or Bookstagram, I get major FOMO and it really pulls me in. I hope I don't get disappointed. Oh man, I've been there so many times. But it's true. There's definitely books out there that you see online all the time, whether it's a hyped up book on Book Talk, Instagram, maybe you see it because it came through on a Goodreads giveaway, or everybody's posting about a book that just came out. And maybe it's just so stuck in your head that you need to pick it up and try it. Maybe that's a way to get out of your book slump. Picking something super hyped, you get this kind of rush when you finally go get the book. It might get a little overhyped, or maybe it's not super overhyped and it's everything it's supposed to be. You never know unless you try. But if everyone's talking about it, that's going to want to make me read it even more. And I'm hoping everybody is heading in the right direction and they're not steering me the wrong way. And so that book could really be the one to pull me out of my book slump. This one actually is my favorite right here. This one is from Savannah. I change my environment. Reading outside, reading at a coffee shop, or just sitting out by the beach really shifts my mindset and makes it fun again. This is where I usually read, right here. This is my reading nook. It's like just a section of it, obviously, but there are times where I'm like, I don't want to go into that reading nook of mine. I want to read outside and light a fire, or I want to listen to an audiobook while I drive. But sometimes all you really need is a change in your environment, a change in scenery. That's all it's going to take. And if you can't get outside or you can't change it up drastically, maybe instead of reading in your bed, you read on your couch. Or if you can't read in your chair anymore, like me, maybe you don't want to read in this reading chair anymore, you pick another place. You don't have to go anywhere. You can just go to your front steps, your back porch, your sidewalk, sit under a tree in your yard, sit on a balcony, do anything. Go down the street and sit at Starbucks and read. Sometimes that's just the key right there, changing your environment. So thank you, Savannah, for that one. I loved it. Another one that I came up with while I was reading my listener responses, someone said that they like to take themselves out on a reading date. That might sound crazy. You can do an in the house date or an out of the house date for yourself. You don't have to go with someone. For me, I love nothing more than every now and then, if I have plans to meet up with some friends or an appointment or something where I need to get out of the house, and for some reason I have extra time on my hands. Oh, I'm taking advantage of that. If I have somewhere to go and I have an hour of extra time, I'm leaving. Not to say I don't like to be home. Let's be for real. Of course, I love to be home, but every now and then I need that little buffer time to kind of just have some time for me. And the only way to get it is to take advantage. And sorry, I'm not sorry. That's not selfish. That's self care. So maybe I will be meeting my friends for dinner and I'll go to that restaurant an hour before they're supposed to be there. I'll sit at the bar, I'll buy myself a drink, and I will read my book. I have done it in the past. I will continue to do it in the future. I would love to go do it today. And if you don't want to sit at the bar, don't want to order a drink, get a table, order an appetizer. If you don't drink, you don't have to get alcohol. There's just so many ways to do this. You don't have to do that. You can take yourself on an ice cream date. You can take yourself on a just sit outside by myself and listen to the ocean date. Doesn't have to be exactly what I just did. But somebody had replied saying that they like to light a candle, make some tea, or grab some kind of beverage, put their phone away, and give reading a moment again. And you know what? That sounds great. That sounds really relaxing. And if you're in a book slump, maybe it's not just a book slump. Maybe it's just you also need some time for yourself, and that's going to help you get out of your book slump. So why not take you and your book on a date? Okay, and the last one I got in from a listener was that she likes to take it to social media. Talking about books on Threads, Bookstagram, or TikTok really gets me hyped to start something new. This is my comfort zone, and where I truly thrive when I need to feel hyped about a book. I can't agree with you more. Thank you, Stacy, for that one. There is nothing better than going on any one of those platforms and going to the bookish community in that area, whether it's Threads, Bookstagram, TikTok, whatever, and just talking about books. And maybe you don't have a huge group of friends in your sphere that read a ton of books. Well, let me tell you, you do. You just haven't met them yet. They're all on those platforms. They're all out there. We're all out there hyping each other up, sharing book recommendations, talking about what we like, what we dislike, and so on. So for Stacy, it's really just making it social and getting out there and breaking her book slump by getting excited again. It's pretty simple, but honestly, I didn't think of that. So even though it's simple, it's not something you're always going to think of. Okay, guys, I'm going to reassure you right now, reading slumps are completely normal and temporary. They happen a lot, but they don't last very long. So even though we spent all of the episode today talking about slumps and how to get out of them, don't think it's going to send you into one. Don't you worry. I encourage all of you to use all the tips that I talked about today to avoid or get out of your book slumps. If you have any tips that you'd like me to share, or you would just like to share with me in general, I would love to hear them because there's no shortage of tips when it comes to beating a book slump. Now, just one more small reminder. Again, book club starts next week on the 1st. We are reading The Love of My Afterlife, like I mentioned earlier. I am so excited to start. Again, the steps are go to Fable and search No Shelf Control Book Club to find and join our book club. You can go to the show notes. The link is right there as well. Or you can go on any one of our social media pages and find the link there too. There's no way you're going to avoid finding this book club. But if you have any trouble, please send us a message and I will be happy to send a link directly to you. And next week's episode, we're going to talk about the TBR Spiral and everything that comes with that. And I'm not going to go any further into it right now. I'm going to let you think on that title and wonder what I'm going to talk about. So, just a reminder to everyone, please follow, subscribe, share the episode, and sign up for our Substack newsletter so that you don't miss a thing. Thanks again for joining today. And don't forget, no shelf control is highly encouraged.